Mr. President, I'm not able, like the right honourable gentleman who has just spoken, to say I come here as a former President of the Union. Because when I was at this ancient university, women were not allowed to be members of the Union. Let alone speak. And I understand, I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman for making my next point for me, because I understand that since then Oxford has been dragged reluctantly and partially into the modern age, though there is, I am told by my spies, a strong undercurrent of masculine chauvinism only too anxious to put the clock back. And I understand, and I gather that it is confidently anticipated by the pro-marketeers that they are going to chalk up a victory for this motion tonight. Well, it would hardly be surprising that the establishment should score in this black tie debate. In the University Union, the cadet club of the establishment. And of course, this happy event will have been encouraged by the carefully contrived wording of the motion tonight. This House... I didn't get that. This House would say yes to Europe. Yes to Europe with all the overtones or undertones of the warm embrace of the dear ladies of Saint-Tropez. Professor Joe, thou shouldst be living at this hour. The right honourable gentleman on previous occasions has accused the anti-marketeers of demagoguery. But it is the hallmark of the demagogue to refuse to define one's terms. And in this motion, there is a retreat to the gooey generalizations that are worthy of Jeremy. And I want to say to him tonight, yes, what do you mean by yes? Yes? Yes on any terms, because do not forget. Thank you, yes on any terms, because I've been extremely interested to hear the right honourable gentleman tonight quoting in aid of the Europe, to which it is true he has been a consistent, if slightly vague, devotee over the years, quoting in aid of the Europe, the entry into Europe he has supported uncritically, changes that were secured long after he gave his vote in the House of Commons that we should go in. No critical judgment by the right honourable gentleman of the terms that were brought back by the then Prime Minister, terms which gave no guarantees about a Lomé Convention, no guarantees at all about the safeguards for developing countries, no guaranteed market for the sugar, we're now told, is the hallmark of this outward-looking community. No safeguards about our budgetary control, and not an iota of mitigation of the obscenities of the common agricultural policy. No check on the intervention buying for beef. No check on the intervention buying for beef that led to the beef mountains that are an outrage in a hungry world. And therefore, I want to say to this House, let us look precisely, please, at what saying yes to Europe involves. It involves our reaffirming our membership to an exclusive association with 6 other European nations out of 22, under the terms of a treaty which compels us to give them priority in everything. Priority in access to our markets, priority in trading relationships, priority in policy making, priority in civic rights, right of entry, right of movement, the right to work, priority over the people of any other country in the world, including the Commonwealth. And that tonight is paraded as internationalism. For the hallmark of this association is exclusiveness. This isn't just a common market, it's a customs union. Its hallmark isn't free trade among its members, but a common external tariff against the rest of the world. And if the right honourable gentleman likes to get up and say, as he's written in recent Times articles, oh, but the European community is going to negotiate away the common external tariff anyway, in GATT and the other international negotiations, because if that happens, the exercise of joining has lost all its point. The home market of 250 million people, to which we're asked to sacrifice our freedom of action.
Mr. Castle, you would take a point of information. I had hoped the Times thought would perhaps bring this up. But as you yourself are no doubt aware, the common external tariff, when it is finally adopted by this country, will in fact be 2.5% lower than the tariff we at the moment have.
It will be lower on some items. Just a minute. Let me finish. It will be lower on some items, but it will be imposed for the first time on a whole range of goods that come into Britain duty-free. And that is to be imposed in the name of the liberalisation of trade, because it is the abandonment. Yes, I can give you a large number of examples, and I am coming to them, because the imposition of tariffs on goods which used to come in free from our Commonwealth is one of the sacrifices we have had to make in the name of internationalism. And therefore, I say that the common external tariff is the criterion. And if it goes, then what's the argument about? Why do we have to go into this complicated, new, and in many ways disadvantageous relationship? Why do we have to have a common agricultural policy and a budgetary contribution, which causes so many difficulties when the home market of 250 million people in Europe has become a home market of 3,800 million people in the world as a whole? And it's this exclusiveness of this community is underpinned by a policy of agricultural protectionism designed to make Europe self-sufficient in high-cost food, regardless of the effects on other countries' economies. And really, Mr. President, nothing is more nauseating than the pro-marketeers' pretense that they're engaged on a great philanthropic exercise. They're there to extend a helping hand to developing countries, and actually to agree, we are told, the opening here and there of their market stores. What concern do they show for other countries' economies when they make this country, for the first time, slap an import levy of 12% on tinned pineapple from Malaysia? Yes. Oh, Malaysia's only a developing country worthy of a sneer from you great internationalists. But Malaysia was, in fact, the largest single supplier of tinned pineapple. And normally came into this country free. And Malaysia's economy has got to take the fact that as part of our membership, we have had to put a tariff on that important produce to their economy. And I wish Oxford wouldn't reveal its lack of knowledge of these countries quite so revealingly by the laughter that it makes. Well, as long as it's not coming out of my time.
I'm finding information. I merely wish to ask if you have the authority of the Malaysian government for your view that Britain's continued membership of the community is more harmful, or if the reports which I understood came out of the Kingston Conference were more accurate and those Commonwealth governments do wish us to remain in the community.
If you think any Commonwealth country wanted the imposition of these tariff barriers, then you must be mad, because no country is going to rejoice in the interference with what has been a normal flow of trade. And once again, what concern do the common community show for other countries' economies when they virtually ban imports of beef from Latin America and Australia, when they make us tax the New Zealand lamb they don't even produce themselves, and they tax our bread when the world price of wheat falls as it is now falling and estimated to fall on every side. And when that particular argument fails, they say, well, they've done it. They've done all this, not in the developing countries' interests, but in our interests. And the right honourable gentleman who has just spoken has said time and again in his arguments that membership has given this country a stable and secure source of food at reasonable prices, and has the nerve to quote sugar, the classic example, as you will all have seen if you read my brilliant letter today in The Guardian. Classic example of where this country had a secure and stable source of supply through the Commonwealth Sugar Agreement, which had to be wound up, and its demise was announced by the right honourable gentleman, then Prime Minister, as part of the terms of our accession to the European community. And so we've been in the world market scramble for sugar, which has led both to higher prices in this country and now a catastrophic fall in the world price again, and increasing insecurity for developing countries. Of course, as a socialist, I believe the primary producers ought to have a better reward for their commodities. But what is intolerable about this so-called exercise in internationalism is that when the price of butter, cheese, meat, flour and bread goes up in our shops, the bulk of that increase isn't going to the overseas countries that produce the food and from whom we imported it. It is going as taxes into the budget of the community to help sustain a high-cost European agriculture. And that is the whole purpose of the exercise. For there's one thing you must never forget about our membership. It means that all the trading on behalf of all the members is conducted by the bloc, first and foremost in the bloc's own interests. And the stronger the bloc, the more it can pick and choose its associates. And this again is demonstrated by what happened at Lomé, which the right honourable gentleman had the nerve to quote as though he invented it. The Lomé Convention which embodies new arrangements between the community and its associates and extends associate membership to 22 developing Commonwealth countries. Now, this convention is widely recognised as having been a personal triumph for our own Minister of Overseas Development, Mrs. Judith Hart, and yet she's vocal among the dissenting ministers. Why? Because she knows both to her and to the developing countries it is her ministerial job to keep in touch with and to understand the whole concept of association, permitted licensed association with a powerful European bloc, is a paternalistic and a neo-colonial one. She is a dissenting minister because the largest and poorest countries in the world, India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, are left out of this circle of privilege because their membership would not suit the trading interests of the European bloc. She is a dissenting minister because she knows these countries, India, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, the major recipients from the British aid programme, still do not draw any financial aid from the European Development Fund, which is directed exclusively towards the associates. Oh yes, by great struggles we forced the other members of the community to concede the principle of someday, somehow, somewhen giving financial aid to India and these other poorer Asian communities. But they still refuse to implement it. This then is the new internationalism, a selective relationship with the rest of the world, controlled and dictated by a powerful European bloc. And what kind of internationalism is it that says that henceforth this country must give priority to a Frenchman over an Indian, a German over an Australian, an Italian over a Malaysian? This isn't the language of internationalism. This isn't the language that we've been hearing in this debate tonight. It is Euro-jingoism. There's been... Listen to that great pro-marketeer Woodrow Wyatt in the Sunday Mirror last weekend. I quote, "The common market contains the 225 million most intelligent, cultured and developed peoples in the world. United, no one can push us around." Or take Mr. Ronald Butt, the pro-marketeer bishop of the Times. I quote, "Do I feel more European than anything else? Certainly in my own case, I do feel more of a European than anything else. Except English. The Commonwealth, I believe," said Mr. Butt, "was one of the more lamentable things that happened in the post-war world." These are your great pro-marketeers, your great internationalists. This is It is this mentality that has motivated the British establishment from the Foreign Office upwards in the past few years in its determination to manoeuvre us into the community, to persuade us to turn our backs on the task of multiracialism of the Commonwealth, on the clamour for independence and nationhood among once submissive colonial people, and join a decent European club where chaps like ourselves could really assert ourselves. And they wanted two things: increased consumption and increased power. They lured us into the market with the mirage of the market miracle.
I'm very grateful to the Right Honourable Lady. Holding these views as passionately and sincerely as she does, may we assume that if the vote is yes, she would not stay on to administer those policies as a minister?
If the vote goes yes, my country will need me to save it even more. And so this is...
Sorry, can I call for order from that?
And so this is what you will mean if you say yes to Europe tonight. The voting for a European bloc and its licensed associates. The voting for a bloc which is moving, pressurised by these two right honourable gentlemen into economic and monetary union. Neither of them would deny it, so please don't once again show your ignorance. A bloc which will then... A bloc which will then, as the honourable mover of the motion said with great honesty, develop into a complete federal state with its own defence policy, its own currency, its own armed forces, its own nuclear weapons, claiming to be an independent nuclear power, another superstate in the world which is plagued by superstates. Are we to throw into the explosive situation of the world today yet another nuclear power in the heart of Europe? I say to you, if you do that, you will cause a desert, and the right honourable gentleman will call it peace.